Welcome to Bat Therapy, mental health through the lens of comics and film. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We're your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources. All right, let's talk vampires and racists.
But it was also such a good movie.
Such a good movie. Okay, so there's this thing where people tell me, hey, here's this really great movie. And then I'm like, I don't know. And I see the trailers. I'm not sure if it's my thing. They're like, no, you'll love it. And so Bill knows me. And so this one I trusted. I was like, okay, I'll go watch it because he saw it first. Because I think it called itself horror. So I was like, I don't do horror. He's like, no. It's more like thrillery, like not jump scares. I was like, okay. And he was right. But I still ended up bawling my freaking eyes out, being so sad at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
Just because of like the historical context of it. And then like the historical context of what we're living in now. It just was all hitting me at once. And I was
You
like,
stayed through the credits, right?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. I stayed through the credits, which did help.
Yes.
But I was just like, because, okay, like the vampires all, hey, lose your soul and be dead so you can be free, but like with strings, because otherwise you might just be dead because these Klansmen aren't going to let you guys just live your lives. And I was like, I hate these choices for you all.
Yep. That was my first thought walking away from it. It's like, become a vampire or live in Jim Crow America and be terrified.
It's or go Django Unchained.
It's such an easy answer for me.
I'm assuming you would go vampire?
Absolutely. I would be like, scratch my leg. I don't like seeing my scars. Let's be that. Let it be that. Yeah. Like, let's do it. Like, I would have 100% become a vampire, and I would have just gone around like killing Klansmen. Yeah. And not bringing them back as vampires, just killing them.
Obviously, feel like I can't really speak to that. But if it were, flip it around and it's like, the most comparable thing you can do with women, which isn't quite the same as Jim Crow stuff by any means. But I don't know. That's tricky. Because, it was kind of like when there was all this buildup about, because Sammy is talking to the twins and it's like, oh my God, you got out. And how amazing is that? And they're like,
don't believe everything you hear.
Yeah, I think they went to Chicago. Is that?
Yeah, they went to Chicago and worked for Capone.
Yeah, and they essentially were like, "It's everywhere." We came back to where we know and understand it more, and you're still black up there. Essentially, I feel like is what they were saying. And so poor Sammy is going down that road, and then like at the end of the story, he meets up with his vampiric uncle and his gal, and essentially they're all like, our happiest moment was when they were able to like have the juke joint
when he talks to Stack at the end.
When he talks to Stack and and what's her name, Mary.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it was one of those things where you looked at it and you were happy that he still chose to go live his life. And one of the aspects I looked at it, because the blues is like, it's such an emotional kind of music. All music is emotional, but
the blues are different. There's just something about it. Yeah. I totally get what you're saying.
And it was one of those things when he got out of there, I was really glad that he kept singing the blues, because it's like, you have a story to tell now. You actually have the sadness behind the music now. Gosh, it was just, it was very, like you said, it was a very emotional movie, but it also really made you think, which I like. And there were so many different. So one of the things that I thought about this movie was everyone they introduced, most of them were unhappy in some way. Even the main vampire, what he wanted was for Sammy to play the music so that he could reconnect with his past people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Remy,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's even what he wanted. The Smokestack brothers, they didn't feel free. Sammy wasn't happy with his life. Pearline and Mary weren't happy, right? Everyone, and also not just Pearline and Mary, but also so many names. Annie.
Annie. Yep, 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 yep. Annie,
Also Annie.
the estranged wife
Right,
of Smoke.
right. Delta Slim, when we meet him, he's pretty down on his luck.
I love
And
Delta Slim.
and so it's one of those things where all of them come together, and for a little while
Yeah.
they have happiness. For a little while they have joy and peace,
And they can just
and
be
then it all comes
themselves.
down. That is, it's such an interesting movie because yeah, the horror of it is vampires, but the horror of it also is
Is real
racism.
life. Well, and racism, yeah.
Is racism. Because the
Yeah,
thing is, whether the vampires attack or the Klansmen attacked, either way, they weren't going to be able to stay happy.
Well, and it was interesting because there's this viciousness with the vampire, but it's like, I mean, I guess so. Okay, so Mary sneaks in a little bit, but all in all, the vampires are pretty upfront about the violence and the viciousness and everything. And but also talking about here's why we think that this is going to be great. And then you have this Klansman who sells them the land for the juke joint, who pretends he's not a Klansman and is planning to essentially come and kill them all later on, which the vampire ends up being able to tell them all about.
Yeah, straight up rats them out.
Rats them out. And
Good.
so the real life is alluring in other ways, but then has these more subtle, violent strains that
Mhm.
come as, in some ways, a lot more of a surprise than the vampires. And what's interesting too about the vampires is, so I was thinking about this, like psychologically speaking, let's say you're having a party, hanging out with your friends, you're having the time of your life, maybe the best time of your life per Sammy. For some of them, it was like the best night of their lives
Mhm.
before the vampires. And then all of a sudden, vampires strike. And you didn't believe, I mean, unless you're Annie, you didn't believe in vampires before.
Mhm.
And so I was like, psychologically speaking, just like the mental shift that you would have to make with this, that
Like,
they
oh, we
all have
doing
to kind
this?
of,
Yeah.
yeah. And yet also, um, they honestly, I think, given the context of who these people are and the fact that they have to deal with all of this like racism and violence and other things going on, I think that actually helps and carries
Mhm.
over to being able to deal with the fact that, oh my God, there are vampires. We got to figure out what to do with this. Because that's one of the things that I feel like I've realized nowadays, where we've had a lot of shifts and changes. And I mean, you and I, we're of a generation that started out fairly smooth relatively speaking. And then when I talk to people, especially honestly, actually African American folks who are like generations older than me, there's a similar thing where there's just a like, okay, let's take this on. One more thing. We're going to take it on. We're going to ride the wave. And so I feel like dealing with all the racist awfulness going on probably helped translate it all for them to, okay, now we got to deal with vampires. Let's take it on. Let's go.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's definitely very interesting because there are all these like large factors getting thrown into the story in different ways. It's not, you can't just focus on the vampire part. You can't just focus on Jim Crow and everything going on with that and the Klansmen and stuff. There's like this blend. And
Mhm.
that's why I was thinking like the real crux of all this is life, because I feel like it hits like life. It's like, you think you're getting a rhythm and then it shifts on you. And then you think you're catching a breath and then it switches on you again. And I think that the blues fits so well with it too, because blues is, yeah, it's so sad, but honestly, also like some of the most beautiful
Mhm.
music and and just I don't know, it hits in a certain way, and that's how this movie is too. It's like it's happiness, it's dread, it's violence, it's connection, it's everything all molded into one melody.
Yeah. And one of my takeaways from it too is what you do with your pain.
Mm,
What you do with your pain, what you do with your trauma. There's so many different outlets that people have. This one, with Sammy specifically, it was music, right? As a matter of fact, with Sammy, even Delta Slim, even Perlane, it was music was their
mhm.
outlet. And I think that's something that's really, really important during trying times. And this is me also preaching to the choir. It's very, very important to find something that either brings you joy or at least de-stresses you. And that
I think
night
the
for
arts
them,
too,
yeah,
a lot of people can really fit that bill.
yeah, like people, yeah, painting, writing, reading books, watching movies, uh,
Dancing in a crowd.
dancing in a crowd, recording a podcast with your friend. Like it's so important to have an outlet because it just builds pain just builds up and it scaffolds. It doesn't, it's one of those things where, yeah, it does eventually subside, but you got to do something. You got to do something because it'll just sit there. It'll just sit there if you let it. And like I said, with this movie, everyone was unhappy. Everyone had pain in some way. Delta Slim, he was definitely drowning it with some alcoholism,
Mhm.
right? The Smokestack brothers, they were completely on the run. Not only were they on the run from the mafias that they had stolen from, but one of them had to kill their dad. One of them killed their dad because the
Right,
dad
yeah.
was beating
I forgot about that part.
the
Yeah,
brother so bad.
yeah,
Like, that's trauma.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you were talking about that, one of the moments that stuck out to me was near the end of the movie. You come back around to the start of the movie where Sammy comes into the church house,
Hmm.
and obviously his father has a way of coping through religion, which is another one we haven't mentioned that works for a lot of people. His dad is trying to convince him to let go of the scraps of the guitar that Sammy is still carrying from everything that happened, and Sammy doesn't let go. And I think that
So
really
symbolic.
hits. Yeah, and I think that really hits on what you were talking about, where I think he knew that that was his way through it,
Hmm.
was with the music, and for him creating, not for everyone it's not creating, it might be experiencing other people's music, but I think he just knew in his bones that he couldn't let go of the music, and I mean, there's even this perpetuating thing the whole movie about how powerful his connection to music is. It connects with, I think they said that there, just a few people each generation that, when they hit this certain tone with their music, it, like, reverberates through time, it connects across,
What a cool
and you
scene.
see all these images of different people in different places, and that's why the vampire comes because he's like,
Hmm.
"Oh my gosh, you can connect me to
Yeah.
my history in a
Hmm.
way that I've lost." And I think Sammy might not fully understand it ever, but he knows he can't let go of the music.
Yeah. He
And I
knows
think that's a part of it, of what you were
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, he has a purpose. And yeah, it's almost music was his outlet, but the way that he was holding on to it at the end, it was almost like he was refusing to let go of baggage.
Mm,
He's refusing. It's like, look, this night, it's simply going to shape who I am for the rest of my life. That's just how it goes. And sometimes that happens to us. For most people, it's a handful of events. I think for most people, it's a handful of, I don't think anyone has 1,000 different moments that really shook them to their core. I think everybody has a handful of those moments that you realize, hey, this really kind of shaped who I ended up becoming. Everybody's story is different. And I think with Sammy in particular, though, that was his.
absolutely.
That was his.
That was definitely a moment for him. I'm contemplating on what you just said. I think you're right. I think that for everyone, I don't think there's a specific number per se, but yeah, it's not limitless moments because if your life is made out of a lot of extreme or big moments, they actually
Mhm.
start blurring together.
Yeah.
Whether it's traumas, which ideally it's not, but unfortunately that can happen, whether it's just other kinds of big moments, like, I don't know, a person is really, let's take a professional basketball player who, wins all these games and championships and da da da. You get to a point where like your baseline shifts. And
Yes.
so I think you're right that a person could like read about another person's life and say like, no, look at all of these different moments that shape that person, and that can be true. But when, yeah, like you're talking about these poignant moments that stand out to a person about pieces in their life, I think you're right that I think what you view as those poignant moments can change over time.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's nope, this one, certain things always remain. But also I think as you go through and your story plays out more, what seems the most poignant can shift too. And there's actually like sometimes within therapy, and I'm sure in other places too, you might ask someone to, here's a piece of paper, here's like a line, and see it as your timeline of your life, and like mark off some of those
Hmm.
poignant moments for yourself, because it
Yeah.
can be a really great way of just being able to create a narrative for yourself and get a better understanding of who you are, and also share with someone else those important moments and share about who you are. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that for Sammy, this is one that sticks, and they show at the end of the movie it sticks to his whole life.
Hmm.
And he even says to Stack, like, uh, to Stack and Mary at the end, he like stops them because he's checking in. Like, I remember this as essentially he's saying this was the best and worst night of my
Yeah.
life.
Before all that, it was the best night of my life.
And he was like checking in about like, does this make sense?
Hmm.
And Stack was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, for very different
Same.
reasons for him. Because for him, it's this poignant moment of that's the last time I saw the sun.
Yeah.
It's the last time I saw my brother
Yeah.
alive.
It's
Um, so for different reasons, but
This is what's interesting. The way this movie seemed, the way that it ended, they made it so that like death was the kindest goodbye there was.
mm,
Because when Smoke dies, it's like he sees Annie
yeah,
and their baby
I gotta say, I was like, oh, thank God.
in the afterlife. Like it was very, very beautiful the way it was
Yeah,
filmed, but also just the message that it
yeah,
gave. Because it's like at the end of it all, it's the people that mourn you that are
mm,
going through the most. It was almost
yeah,
like, Smoke, you did the damn thing tonight. Your fight's over.
yeah.
You get
Well, and
to, yeah.
and
And
don't
it
forget
was,
Annie. Annie made him promise
yes,
to not let her turn into a vampire, and the main reason she gave was, we have someone on the other side waiting for us.
yes.
She didn't
Oof.
want to get trapped. And so for them, this sense of an afterlife and reconnection to the ones that they had lost, for them, their child. And yeah, that was a really, really beautiful moment. Mm, and a very good point where he there's this unexpected peace and happiness
Hmm.
at the end of his life, where there's kind of this triumphant overcoming of the Klansman and everything that happens, and he gets shot and he's dying. You're like, really? And then this wonderful, peaceful connection moment happens
Yes.
for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Smoke in particular, he had such a rough go of things. He
yeah.
was the one that killed the dad.
Yep. Yep.
He was the one who lost the baby, right? He and that he
He
even
sees his brother die.
right. Stack even makes a point of it when they're fighting each other at the end. Smoke apologizes to him about like not being able to protect him, and Stack's like, no, you all even Stack as a vampire, it's like
Yep.
you always protected me. You
Yep.
always looked out for me. Like it was, yeah, it was really good. And like you said at the end, when Stack is talking to Sammy, he's like, it was the best night of my life. It was the last time I saw the sun. It was the last time I saw my brother. And it's so interesting the way that at the end of it all, it's like, yeah, even in immortality, you're still trapped in some way. You still don't have that complete control.
Yep.
And, walking into it, all of them, like I said, had those poignant moments that really shaped them. For Sammy, it was that night. For the Smokestack twins, we know that everything with their dad losing the baby. With Mary, it was when the twins left her, right? With Delta Slim, it was what happened with his friend getting lynched.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and even just driving past all the prisoners that he said he knew,
He knew them. Yeah.
right? And you see, like, this is how this pain plays out over a long period of time. It just sits on you. And Delta Slim was a phenomenal blues musician, but it was because there was
Yeah.
that pain that was there. And
Came
this
at a
is not
cost.
me. And this is not me saying that in order to be a good musician, it has to come from a place of pain.
God, no, because Sammy, right?
Right.
He was phenomenal. And they were like,
Mhm.
how can you do this? You don't have the pain
But we
behind
see it
it.
so much historically, though. Like, you look at like writers and artists, musicians, there's so many tortured artists.
Well, and also when you see these really, really difficult times in history, you tend to see an uptick in a lot of creativity and the creative
Mhm.
world.
Yes.
Like I remember, 'cause I took German studies in college, and I remember them talking about Vienna, and I think it was the late 1800s, and there was just so much turmoil going on in that country. There were high suicide rates, and there was also a lot of like creative productivity. There was just so much turmoil going on. It really does. I think it does a few things. I think it forces you to look at things in a different way that ignites the creativity in a different way.
Mhm.
And then, like we were talking about before, there's also the coping and using the creativity to just be able to last through everything going on and still find a way to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because, like, Smoke and Stack, take them for example. And they're essentially telling Sammy, you're screwed no matter where you go. And here we are taking one, doing one more thing and we're going after our dream and we're keeping an eye open. We're watching out for the Klansmen, but we're going to make our juke joint. And, there's finding a way to keep living in spite of all of the weight of everything. And I think the creativity definitely comes in handy there.
Even at the end of the movie with Smoke, he's like, that was a really shitty night. Not done yet, though. And it was so interesting because the like amulet that like Annie had given him to protect him, he purposely takes it off.
Yeah.
He purposely takes it off like it is what it is, right? He kept it moving. And also, we got to look at Stack and Mary here. They got turned. And throughout that night, even when they got turned, they were in this place like, look, I have a family. I have other vampires around me. None of them make it. So even Stack and Mary at the end, they're just like, I guess we got to be here for each other and just keep it moving together, because what we thought was going to work out didn't.
Well, and what's interesting too is that these vampires like clearly have no issue with killing people, and they turn into manipulative killers.
Mhm.
Like Mary had no issue with going in and turning Stack, right? And like sneaking in to do it. And they never turned Sammy, who, by the way, so one, like you said, all their vampire family burns up in flames like the night they're made,
Mhm.
including their maker. So they're kind of going it on their own, we assume. And don't forget that Sammy has this really powerful musical attunement to
Mhm.
everything,
Right.
that they know is so valuable. And they still stick with that promise to Smoke that they will not turn Sammy. Now they
Yep.
offer it to him at
They
the end
do.
of his life.
Right.
But they take his no and go on their way. And I think that's very interesting because it lends a question mark when it comes to the vampires and what they are. They're clearly not entirely out for their own gain
Yeah. It's interesting.
in some way.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because it's one of those things like, okay, yeah, you're terrifying and you're turning people without permission, but it's also one of those things where it was weird because it was like their whole point was turning people. It wasn't feasting.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I think that's a great point. And the main vampire, who granted died later on, he was all about developing a community.
Yes. Yes. I just remember one of my favorite parts in the movie.
Mm.
It's when Remick comes up to the door and one of the Smokestack brothers are like, "Are y'all clan?" And he looked so offended. He was like, "Sir." I just loved that part so much. He's like, "I might be a vampire, but my God, don't you dare." It was such a good moment. And I just, it's something about his face. It just made me laugh so hard. Because, and I think that's what he says. It's like, "Sir." He's like, "Are y'all clan?" It's like, absolutely not. Like, I might be a blood sucking monster, but I'm not a bigot. Like, I loved that so
Yep.
much. I
Yep.
loved it.
It was very interesting. And there was, yeah, there was, well, you know what? To be a vampire, you gotta be able to be fluid and I think embrace a lot of different ideas, and because you got to transition through time. And so here you got this guy who, I mean, he shows up and they show up very bluegrassy. And then other times you see his like true Irishness really
What
coming
a
through.
scene. I could not believe that scene when he's singing the Irish song and river dancing and
good.
they're all out there just having
Yes.
such a ball. I'm like, I want to be at that party. I would get turned so quick. What's
Before we
stressful
talk about this, yes, you would be like,
stressful
take
about
me.
Sinners is there's so many different moments where I would just be like, "Yep, absolutely." Like, yeah, I wouldn't think twice. I wouldn't think twice. I'm like, "Look, bite my leg. Let's just get it over with." I like nighttime anyway. I don't like sweating. It gets way too hot. Let's make this work.
Yeah.
Let's make this
Well,
work.
and I mean, it really is like, in some ways, so they share memories, right? When they join together and whatnot. So they're sharing memories, and yet they are different,
Yeah.
and yet they're not, and yet they like do the same dances and they do things in rhythm as if they're one entity. It's almost like, in some ways, they're almost like a hive or an ant colony or something. And then in other ways, they are separate beings. And they seem to, I mean, like, granted, like, he throws the bigotry away because, I mean, he did, like,
It's
he turned to clans people. Like, that's how he found out about what people were planning to do. But he didn't take on those ideas, but there's all this like cultural mixing and expressing each other's cultures, and it's very interesting melding.
it's almost like they gave empathy physicality. Like, because, yeah, they suddenly could feel what each other were feeling. Background did not matter.
Yeah.
But they could physically feel pain when each other felt it. Or it might just have been Remick. Like, they all felt.
Yeah, they all. Yeah, when he got hurt and they were like, ah.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
all
think with
felt
Remick.
it. Because it's like, hey, once you're one of us, you're family. And when we lose a family member, it hurts us, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I think they gave it more physicality, like you actually saw it. But at the same time, T turned those first two Klansmen at the beginning. They weren't racist anymore. They weren't. They did not mind them. They did not mind Black people at all after they became vampires.
It's true. I mean, it is hard to tell what part of that is the weird, like, sociopathic, like, lie, manipulate, and kill, versus what is that, that communal piece. Because that is a fair point. It is a lot easier to understand people when you've gone through something where you can relate it directly.
Yes.
Or the more directly you can relate something, the easier it is to care about that other person. And here you're right, there is a physicality to it where you are experiencing it, you are remembering it.
Hmm.
Like you don't, because at one point Remick talks about the Klansmen are actually they're planning on coming and kill you guys anyway. And then I forget who it is, but someone that he turned was like, it's true, essentially like talking about the sharing of memories. And it's not that Remick just like told them. No, you get the sense that they experience those memories. They have those memories as well. So I
It's almost like support groups that have gone through similar
yeah.
experiences, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so like, I mean, I feel like with the support groups, like it's more technically empathy. I don't know if it's because it gets weird with the vampires because it's almost like you've gone through it, even though you didn't go through it, but like you've experienced it to some degree. So I'm like, I feel like it's like cheat empathy.
Yeah. Yeah,
You got to cheat a little bit to get
definitely.
to gain that empathy. But yeah, I think you're right, where like sometimes really having experienced something similar, like with support groups or something, there's something to that. And just like we were talking about poignant moments in life and how those can change depending on what happens later, I feel like the same happens with empathy. Like as a therapist in particular, obviously I've tried to hone my empathy as much as I can to empathize with whoever comes through. But I feel like there's also like, as I go through things in life or as I experience things and make connections, those layers of empathy also change,
Hmm.
just like those poignant moments change. And when you experience something that more directly ties, there can be this like
Yeah,
this click.
yeah.
Like I'm understanding this on another deeper level than I did before. And it definitely helps inform what you do. So yeah, I mean maybe that helped inform those people and they weren't racist anymore.
I mean, yeah,
Who
because I
knows?
mean, if they were all connected, the moment that Stack got turned, for all we know, the Klansman vampires suddenly saw, oh wow, this was a black man that fought in World War One for our country and came back to the Jim Crow South afterwards.
It was a
Wow.
rough time.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like and so it's I do wonder if it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is the big picture. Because being able to see things from someone else's point of view so many times can be a game changer when seeing eye to eye with someone. When you ask that question, how do you think they feel?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know there's conflicted feelings about this, but it reminds me of I forget her name, but that author back in the day who like dyed her skin so she could get a better sense of what it was like to be African American. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Talking about how far back in the day? Are we talking about like the like early 2000s?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
This is
okay.
like I think at least 100 years ago, but maybe
Okay.
not that far.
Okay,
But
yeah.
no, this is someone who like they wrote I think like a memoir or something about turning dyeing their skin so they would pass as an African American woman.
Okay.
And there's conflicting feelings about that because it's like, yeah, let's believe this white woman's experience of it instead of every black woman's experience that they
It's
could have
like
shared anyway. So, like, but it's making me think of that where it's like, sometimes it can be really look, as much as I care about you and believe you when you tell me stories and, experience certain things in life, I'm still not living your life.
right.
And vice versa.
Right.
I will never fully be able to really take on everything
Yeah.
for you
Yeah.
and same my direction, right?
Will
And
never
so
I will never sunburn.
yes, thank you. I don't recommend it. I'm scared of the sun and I live in Texas, so that's really fun.
Sinners.
There's a lot in my genetics that suggests that I belong under cloud cover. Um, but yeah, there are things that we just can't understand and sometimes people put themselves in situations purposefully to try
Mhm.
and better understand and I think that if done in the right way that can be really great. And at the end of the day, there are just some things I am never going to understand fully, and you are
Mhm.
never going to understand fully.
Yeah.
And we still have to figure out how to kind of get along. The vampires, they got a cheat sheet. You join together, you share memories, you share those experiences. Poof, you got a community out of nowhere. And that is a tempting offer.
Right. Everyone else, you're gonna have to sit down for multiple cups of coffee. You're gonna have to listen, right? It's one of those things. It's like, okay, now I get it. And that is not easy. That is not something that's easy to do, especially in this day and age with things like political views and differences. Being able to sit down and see eye to and try to see eye to eye with someone, or even listen to someone that has views that can possibly skew so far away from you. I don't blame anyone for saying, I can't handle it. I don't blame anyone for it. But at the same time, literally nothing will change. If somebody, I'm not saying it's you, I'm not saying it's me, but somebody is going to have to communicate, right?
Well, and there's so much that we have the ability to access in terms of information and resources, and we can learn so much about the world in really wonderful ways. And also, we live in a very precarious time where you often can't trust what's in front of you. And before, you
Yes.
couldn't trust what was in front of you necessarily because you don't get to hear all from all sides.
Hmm.
Now you hear from all sides, but then you have deep fakes and
AI. Yep.
AI and misinformation and social media. It all works on algorithms that skew what you see, but you think you're getting the neutral versions. And there's just so many things that no matter what, no matter how much information is at your disposal, there's always going to be different perspectives, and things are going to be skewed in different ways, and you're
Hmm.
sorting through all the muck. And nowadays we're just inundated with so much, we get overwhelmed, and we're more distanced from each other. A lot of the ways we connect are through technology, and the technology itself
Hmm.
is not, it's imperfect. It has its flaws. It's made by us. So yeah, I agree with you that there's, and a lot of times too, what we see in the research time and time again is if you want someone to be able to become more understanding, have less of these underlying, even like subtle reactions that might line up with stereotyping of some sort or
Hmm.
grouping people in unfair ways, which our minds will do automatically no matter what.
Yep.
We all have that happen,
Yep.
whether you're a Klansman or whether you're just anybody. It's experiences directly with those people. Like you said, sitting down for a cup of coffee, being person to person, having those human experiences, but not just one, because then that person's an exception, right? Just going out and having a lot of these experiences and connecting with people is the best route to creating a more full human understanding of each other. But it's hard. And
Yes.
we don't have the quick fix
Yep.
of
Can't just
dying, losing our souls, never being able to,
get bit and understand.
yeah, just trapped in the world around you
Yeah.
doing Irish jigs.
Yeah. But at the same time, we can find an outlet for our pain.
There you go. Podcast today. Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JBS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.